I sat on the couch, staring at the clock. It was past midnight. Emily was supposed to be home by 11. I checked my phone again. No text, no call. Just a missed one earlier, telling me she'd be out late with the girls. I wasn't sure when late started meaning who knows when, but there it was. The door clicked open, and she stepped inside, laughing as if she didn't have a care in the world. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "You're late." Emily shrugged, tossing her purse onto the table. "It's no big deal. I told you I'd be out late." I didn't respond immediately. My eyes followed her as she walked to the kitchen, pulling a bottle of water out of the fridge. There was a faint, sharp scent on her, a cologne that didn't smell like anything I recognized. I didn't ask, but it nagged at me. "You've been out a lot lately," I said, leaning back, trying to sound casual. It's just a lot. Is everything okay?" She waved her hand dismissively, glancing at me with a smirk. "Everything's fine, Jake. Chill out. I'm just having fun." I wanted to say more, to ask if this was how she'd always planned it, coming home after I had already gone to bed, disappearing with no explanation. But I kept quiet. She wasn't listening anyway. "Just don't freak out," she added, her voice clipped now, as if I were the one making it into a bigger deal. "It's girls' night, for God's sake. I'm allowed to have some fun." I opened my mouth but didn't say anything. I felt stupid for even asking, stupid for expecting something different. She let out a breath, clearly done with the conversation. "I'm going to bed. Good night, Jake." "Good night," I muttered, not bothering to move. As she walked past me, I watched her go upstairs. The scent still lingered in the air, mixing with the faint feeling of her absence. I sat there for what felt like hours after she went upstairs, staring at the empty space where she'd been. The faint smell of her perfume still lingered, and I couldn't shake the unease gnawing at me. I tried to focus, tried to tell myself I was overreacting. It was just a late night, right? Just a bunch of girls having a good time. But the more I thought about it, the more it didn't add up. Emily had been getting more distant. Late nights, excuses, that sense that she wasn't fully present anymore, even when she was home. I kept telling myself that maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe she was just busy, or maybe I was missing something. But it didn't feel like nothing. It felt like something shifting, and I couldn't put my finger on it. The silence in the house felt heavier now, the space between us wider. The next morning, I walked into the living room, still replaying everything in my head. Emily had left her clothes on the chair in the bedroom, a jacket and a blouse she'd worn the night before. I grabbed the shirt, just out of habit, and held it up to the light. There it was again, another faint scent that wasn't hers. It was strong, too strong, and it wasn't a cologne I recognized. I turned it over, hoping I was wrong, but no, it wasn't just my imagination. It was something else. I stood there, feeling that knot twist tighter in my chest. When Emily finally came downstairs, already dressed for the day, I didn't know whether to say something or just let it go. But I couldn't ignore it, not anymore. "Hey," I started, my voice sounding smaller than I wanted it to. "The cologne, it's not yours, right?" She froze for a second, clearly not expecting me to say anything. Her eyes flicked to mine, sharp, but then she shrugged like it was nothing. "Are you serious?" she said, rolling her eyes. "You're gonna start this again? I'm just trying to have fun. Relax, Jake." The dismissiveness hit me hard, like I was the one making it a big deal, like I was the crazy one for noticing something off. "I'm not making it a big deal. I stopped myself. My voice was shaking now, and I didn't want to go down that road. "I don't know, maybe you're paranoid. You've been acting weird, questioning everything," she added with a laugh, turning away to grab her coffee. "It's just a scent. Calm down." I watched her, fighting the urge to say more, to push it, to make her explain. But I didn't. I stayed quiet, my jaw tight. She was already out the door before I could think of what to say next. I spent the rest of the morning pacing. My mind kept running, thinking about everything I had missed, all those late nights, all those times I asked if she was okay and got nothing but a shrug in return. I felt stupid for questioning her. Was I just insecure? Was I reading too much into all of this? Maybe it was all in my head, just a product of me overthinking. But no, something was off. I could feel it in my gut. And every time I let it slide, I felt more like a fool. I couldn't figure out where this was going, whether to let it go or finally confront her again. Every option felt like a trap. If I said too much, I'd look controlling. If I said nothing, I'd be weak. And all the while, that nagging feeling in my chest wouldn't go away. I was stuck. I sat in the dark, waiting for her to come home. It was after 2:30 when I finally heard the front door creak open. Her footsteps were unsteady, dragging like she was half sober. Maybe not even that. "Emily," I called, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. But it was there, too sharp, too frustrated. She didn't answer at first, just laughed, the sound slurred and too loud. Like it didn't matter that she'd been out all night. "I'm home, Jake. Relax." She stumbled into the living room, and I could smell the alcohol on her breath before I even saw her clearly. She was wearing a different dress, dark green, tight-fitting, nothing like the one she left in. Her makeup was smudged, and her hair was a mess. It wasn't just that she was drunk, it was the way she looked at me, dismissive, like I didn't matter. "What the hell, Emily?" I couldn't keep it in anymore. The frustration bubbled up, thick and hot. "Where have you been? Who were you with? This isn't just a girls' night, right?" She rolled her eyes, letting out a laugh that felt more like a mockery than a response. "You're really doing this now? At 2:30 in the morning?" I stood up, my hands clenching at my sides. "Yeah, I am. Because this isn't normal, Em. You've been acting like everything's fine when it's not. You've been gone, you've been hiding things. And I'm supposed to just keep pretending I don't see it?" She shook her head, stepping past me toward the kitchen. "God, you're such a drama queen. It's a night out with the girls. Why do you have to make it so much bigger than it is? It's really not that serious." But I wasn't backing down. "It is serious. You're gone all the time. You're late. You're acting like I'm the problem for asking questions. You're wearing a different dress than you left in. Where's the one you were in when you left, huh?" Her face froze for a second. Then the smile came back, even more condescending. "You really are obsessed with details, aren't you? Maybe if you weren't so boring, I wouldn't have to hide things." I felt my stomach drop. Boring. The word hit harder than I expected. "I'm boring? You've been disappearing for hours on end, and I'm the boring one? You think I'm crazy for caring about my wife being gone all the time?" She crossed her arms, leaning against the counter, clearly enjoying the power shift. "Maybe you just need to relax, Jake. Let me live my life. Maybe if you didn't keep asking me questions, I'd actually want to spend time with you." I was seething now, trying to stay calm, but it was impossible. She didn't care. She didn't see me anymore. She didn't care that I was hurt or confused. She just kept brushing me off like I was a problem she didn't want to deal with. I took a breath. "I'm done." My voice was low, barely above a whisper, but it felt like I had shouted it. "I can't do this anymore. I'm not your damn babysitter. If you can't even respect me enough to be honest about what's going on, then I'm done." I turned away, walking toward the stairs. I needed space. I needed air. I needed to get away from her, from everything. "Where are you going?" Her voice was sharper now, irritated. "Jake, don't walk away from me when we're talking about this." I didn't answer. I couldn't. My feet moved faster, taking me upstairs before I could second-guess myself. When I reached the top, I paused, taking one last look at her through the railing. She was still standing there, fuming, but she wasn't coming after me. She was too comfortable in her own self-assurance. I shut the bedroom door behind me and collapsed onto the bed, staring at the ceiling. The weight of everything, the lies, the distance, the mockery, pressed on me, suffocating. I had no idea where to go from here. The morning light filtered through the blinds, and I opened my eyes, still feeling the weight of last night pressing on me. I was expecting Jake to be there, maybe still angry, maybe still silent. But when I reached over to his side of the bed, it was cold, empty. At first, I didn't think much of it. He probably went for a run or something. He had his little routines. But as I lay there, I realized I hadn't heard him get up, hadn't heard anything at all. I rolled out of bed and went downstairs. The kitchen was quiet, too quiet. There was no coffee brewing, no sign of his usual morning routine. His mug wasn't on the counter, his laptop wasn't open on the kitchen table like it always was when he worked from home. Okay, fine. Maybe he left early. I tried not to think too much about it. I grabbed my phone and opened our shared location tracker, expecting to see him on his usual path to the gym or the coffee shop. But the screen showed location unavailable. That was strange. We'd never had an issue with that before. My heart skipped. I tried to push it down. He's just punishing me, I thought. He's probably trying to get under my skin. But even as the thought crossed my mind, it didn't sit right. It felt off. A sinking feeling started to settle in my chest. Something I couldn't shake. I called him. Once, twice. No answer. I tried again, then checked the time. It was almost 9 a.m. He should have been awake by now. I stood there, phone in hand, staring at the screen like it was going to give me some kind of answer, but it didn't. There was no explanation, no message. I dialed again. Nothing. The panic started creeping in, slow at first, then faster, like a cold wave rolling over me. I tried to shake it off, convincing myself that he was just being dramatic, like me. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. I started pacing. Maybe he went out for breakfast, maybe he had an early meeting. But I couldn't get the thought out of my head that he wouldn't have left without a word. Not like this. I tried calling again. Nothing. I checked the car, but it was still in the driveway. I looked around the house like he might be hiding somewhere, just playing some stupid game to mess with me. But no, the silence was suffocating. Finally, I sat down, my head in my hands. What was I supposed to do? Was this some kind of punishment for last night? Or was this something worse? I took a deep breath and tried to convince myself that it wasn't as bad as it seemed. He's just trying to make a point, maybe. He'll come back. He always does. But even as I told myself that, the nagging feeling wouldn't go away. This was different. I couldn't put my finger on why, but I knew it was. I called his work, but no one had seen him. His friends hadn't heard from him either. No one knew where he was. And that was when it hit me. I wasn't just angry or annoyed. I was scared of what this meant. What had I done to make him just disappear like this? I spent the entire day trying to reach Jake. I called every number I could think of. His friends, his coworkers, people I hadn't even spoken to in months. No one picked up. No one knew where he was. It felt like he'd vanished into thin air. I checked his social media, hoping to find something, anything. But when I scrolled through his profiles, it hit me like a punch in the stomach. His accounts were all gone. His Facebook, his Instagram, his LinkedIn, everything. I stood there, frozen, staring at the empty screens. This wasn't just a fight. This wasn't just him being dramatic. This was him disappearing. I tried to tell myself to calm down. It had to be some mistake. He was just pulling away, that's all. But deep down, I knew that didn't explain everything. Not by a long shot. I had to find him. I couldn't sit here all day wondering what was going on. I called his work next, but the receptionist told me she hadn't seen him. She said he hadn't been in all week. That wasn't right. He'd been there just a couple of days ago. I was sure of it. I was starting to feel dizzy, like the ground was slipping out from under me. That's when I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I called his lawyer. The phone rang twice before someone picked up. I didn't even bother with pleasantries. "I need to speak to Jake," I said, my voice shaking. "He's gone, and I don't know where he is. Do you know anything?" The woman on the other end paused, then said in a tone I could barely understand, "I'm sorry, but I can't help you with that." "What do you mean you can't help me?" I felt my chest tightening. "Where is he? What's going on?" "I think it's best if you check your email," she said, her voice a little too calm, too distant. I didn't wait for her to hang up before I opened my inbox. The subject line of the new email caught my eye. Divorce filing. Jake. Extast. My stomach twisted as I clicked it open. I scanned the first paragraph, and then I saw it. He'd filed. The words didn't register at first. Divorce. He filed for divorce. I stared at the screen in disbelief, reading it over and over, as if somehow it would make sense if I looked at it long enough. I could feel my pulse racing, my hands trembling as I tried to process what I was seeing. I clicked through to the attached documents, hoping it was some kind of mistake, but it wasn't. There were pictures, photos of me and another man. The pictures were taken on one of my girls' nights, but I couldn't deny it. It was clear. There was something going on, something I hadn't thought anyone would notice, much less Jake. I sank down onto the couch, staring at the screen, tears welling up in my eyes. How could he do this? I kept asking myself. How could he leave without saying anything? But then, as the shock started to dull, something else crept in. Guilt. I felt the weight of everything I'd done, everything I'd ignored. But instead of owning up to it, All I could think about was how I could justify myself, how I could make it right. It wasn't that serious, I told myself. He doesn't understand. He never understood. I reached for my phone again, feeling a surge of desperation. I called my friend Monica. She answered on the second ring. "Monica, I need you to listen," I said, trying to steady my breath. "I'm in trouble. Jake, he filed for divorce. He has pictures and—" "Emily," Monica interrupted, her voice sharp. "What did you do?" I froze. "What do you mean?" "You know what I mean. You've been gone all the time, doing whatever you wanted, with who knows who, and now you're surprised he's had enough? You think he's just going to let it slide?" Her words hit like a slap. I opened my mouth to respond, but I didn't know what to say. I didn't mean for it to go this far," I whispered. "I didn't think he'd actually do it." "Well, he did," Monica said. "And now you're going to have to face it." The phone went quiet for a long moment. I didn't know what else to say because she was right. I had been reckless. I had pushed him away, lied to him, pretended like everything would work out. And now it was all crashing down. I hung up and sat there, staring at the email again, wishing I could undo everything I'd done. But the truth was, I didn't know how. I didn't know how to make this right. And deep down, I wasn't sure I even could. The first thing I noticed was the silence. It started with my friends. One by one, the texts stopped coming in. No check-ins, no, "How are you holding up?" No, "Let's talk, I'm here for you." It was like I was invisible. And then there was Monica, who hadn't even bothered to respond to my last message. I hadn't heard from her since our phone call. But it didn't stop there. When I scrolled through my phone, my heart sank. The post from Jake's sister had gone viral. It was a photo of me and the guy from the night out, with a caption that didn't leave much to interpretation. It was clear what she was trying to say. She painted me as the villain, the woman who betrayed her brother, the one who tore their family apart. The comments poured in like an avalanche. They were brutal. People I barely knew had opinions. "She doesn't deserve him," one wrote. "How could she do that to such a good guy?" another said. They tore me apart, piece by piece. I couldn't keep up with the notifications. My hands shook as I read the words, each one sharp, each one making the knot in my stomach tighten until it felt like I couldn't breathe. I closed the app, but the damage was done. I couldn't stop seeing their faces, imagining the whispers behind my back. At work, it was worse. I walked in that morning, expecting it to be business as usual. Instead, I was met with cold stares. People looked right through me, avoiding my eyes, the silence louder than any words. The whispers started as soon as I walked past the break room. I could feel them following me, could hear the subtle change in the air as I sat down at my desk. I tried to keep my focus on my work. I had to. But it wasn't just the stares. My boss, Tom, looked at me like I was beneath him. He didn't even acknowledge me when I walked in, which wasn't like him, not to my face anyway. He finally stopped by my desk at lunch. "Can we talk for a minute?" he asked, his voice clipped. I nodded, feeling the tension building. He closed the door behind him when we entered the conference room, and for the first time, he didn't sit across from me. Instead, he stood by the window, arms crossed. "I don't need to tell you what people are saying," he said, staring out at the parking lot. I felt my throat tighten. "It's not—" "Look," he interrupted, his voice a little softer, but not much. "You're a good worker, Emily. But this is going to be hard to ignore." I waited, but he didn't say more. It was clear what he meant. His tone was all business, no empathy. Like I was already a liability. The conversation ended abruptly, and when I went back to my desk, there was no pretending I didn't feel it. The judgment, the distance. I could feel it in the way my coworkers looked at me, or didn't look at me. It wasn't just gossip, it was something worse. It was the kind of judgment that made you wish you could crawl into a hole and never come out. I had to leave early. My head was spinning, and I needed space. A place where I didn't have to face the whispers and the stares. But when I got home, it was just as bad. The messages kept coming. From my family, from Jake's. They all sided with him. His parents sent me a message that was as cold as ice. They weren't asking if I was okay. They weren't offering support. They just told me I needed to leave him alone. That I had crossed a line, and there was no going back. I called Jake's sister, desperate for some kind of understanding, some piece of the past that wasn't just judgment. But she didn't answer. I left a voicemail, but I knew she wasn't going to help me. Everyone had made up their minds. I sat down on the couch, my hands trembling. The messages, the posts, the calls. Everyone was against me. The isolation was suffocating. I couldn't breathe through it, couldn't pretend that everything was fine. The people who had once been in my corner were gone, leaving me in the wreckage of my own decisions. I thought of Jake, of everything we'd built together, and now it was crumbling. All I had left was my own reflection in the shattered pieces of my life. The silence in my house echoed, and in that silence I realized just how much I had lost. Everything. Everyone. And there was no way to fix it. I sat there, my phone in my hands, trying to think of something, anything that could make this right. The walls of my apartment felt too small, too close. My breath came too quickly, too shallow, and every text message that pinged through just reminded me that no one was on my side. Everyone had turned their backs, except for Jake's lawyer. I needed to do something, anything to regain control. I'd lost everything, my reputation, my marriage, my friends. I couldn't lose this. I couldn't lose him. I had to make him talk to me. I opened my contacts and hit the number I knew by heart, the one that had become my lifeline to whatever hope remained. Jake's lawyer. He'd been cool, distant, almost robotic in our previous conversations. But I was desperate. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Finally, the voice on the other end was clipped, unemotional, just like I remembered. "Yes? I need your help," I blurted out, my voice shaky, almost frantic. "I don't know what to do. Jake's gone. He filed for divorce, and..." I forced myself to take a breath, pretending to hold it together. "I'm scared. I'm really scared, and I don't know what to do without him. Please, I need him back." There was a long silence, and then he spoke again, like he was assessing me, calculating something. "Emily, I've told you before. Jake's made his decision. You need to accept that." No, I can't. I bit my lip, fighting the tears. "I'm pregnant. I didn't want to tell him like this, but I'm pregnant, and he has to know. He has to listen to me. I can't do this alone." The words spilled out before I could stop them. It was a lie. I wasn't pregnant, but it felt like the one thing that might get him to pick up the phone, the one thing that might make him reconsider. The silence on the other end of the line stretched longer than before. "I'd suggest you check your email, Emily. There's some new information there that you need to see." His tone was so flat, so detached, it hit me like a punch. But I didn't hesitate. I hung up, my fingers trembling as I opened my inbox. I didn't care what he said. New information, I didn't care. The subject line jumped out at me. Paternity test request. I stared at it, barely able to breathe. Paternity test? It was the last thing I was expecting. I clicked on it, and the email opened showing the formal request for a paternity test. A test that Jake had already arranged, already anticipated. It wasn't a question of whether or not I was pregnant. It was a question of whose child it was. My hands went numb, the screen blurring in front of me. I scrolled through the email, the shock freezing me in place. It was real. Jake had already thought this through. He hadn't just filed for divorce. He had already planned for everything I could possibly do. He had set up a way to prove everything, all the suspicions he must have had, the doubts I had pushed aside until they grew too big to ignore. I felt my pulse hammer in my ears. He knew. He had known before I even picked up the phone. The air in the room felt like it was pressing down on me, suffocating me, making it harder to breathe. I tried to close my eyes, but the panic hit me harder than before. It wasn't just that he'd figured me out. It was that he was already ahead of me. I wasn't in control anymore. I wasn't even in the same game. I grabbed the sides of my chair, trying to steady myself. My mind raced, but everything was moving too fast. I had no moves left, no way to get him back, no way to fix this. I had lied, I had manipulated, and now it was too late. I was powerless. And the worst part was that I had done this to myself. I stared at the email, the words swimming in front of my eyes, and for the first time, I realized there was no coming back from this. Not for me. Not for us. I sat at the cafe, my fingers tapping impatiently on the table. The place was quiet, almost too quiet. I kept checking the door, hoping Jake would walk in, hoping that this meeting, this conversation, would be the moment I could fix everything. That maybe if I could just get him to listen, I could salvage something. Anything. I had to make him see. I had to make him understand. I heard the door chime, and my stomach twisted. Jake stepped in, looking the same as always, calm, collected. confident. He moved toward me, his eyes scanning the room for a moment before landing on me. He sat down without a word, folding his hands on the table in front of him. I forced a smile, though it felt like a mask. "Jake, I'm glad you came. I've been trying to reach you. I need to talk." He nodded, his expression unreadable. He didn't say anything. I wanted to scream, to shake him, but instead I leaned in, trying to hold on to some semblance of control. "Look, I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. I'm not trying to downplay what I did, but you have to understand. The affair, it wasn't what you think." Jake didn't react, just kept looking at me, his eyes steady, unwavering. It pissed me off more than I wanted to admit. He was too calm, too sure of himself. I know it was a mistake, a huge mistake, but it wasn't. "I don't know," I said, struggling to find the words. "I wasn't happy, Jake. You weren't there for me like I needed, and I know that's not an excuse. I get it. But I never meant for it to get this far. I just wanted something to feel alive again." I could see the flicker of something in his eyes, but it wasn't what I expected. There was no hurt, no anger, just detachment. I pressed on, desperate. "I miss you, Jake. I miss us. I regret everything. I was stupid. But please don't let this be the end. I love you. I do. I know I messed up, but Jake's voice interrupted me, low and measured. "Emily, I didn't leave you because of the affair." My heart skipped. "What?" He didn't blink, didn't flinch. He just said it. "I left because of you, because of who you are, not what you did." I felt the breath leave my body. "What do you mean? I'm sorry. I've said I'm sorry. I'm trying to make it right." Jake shook his head slightly. "You don't get it. You're sorry that you got caught. You're sorry that your life is falling apart. You're sorry because you want control back. But you're not sorry for how you treated me, how you used me. You just want things to go back to the way they were, so you can feel like you've got everything figured out again." His words hit harder than anything I'd expected. They sliced through the air between us, sharp and undeniable. I opened my mouth to argue, but no words came out. It wasn't just that he was right, it was that I knew it. Deep down, I knew he was right. "You're not sorry for me, Emily," Jake said, his tone colder now. "You miss control. That's what this is about. You want to fix everything, make it perfect, so you can go back to feeling like the world revolves around you." I stared at him, my chest tight, my face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "That's not true," I spat. "I do love you. I always have." Jake leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing slightly as if weighing something in his mind. "No, Emily, you don't love me. You love having someone who will stay, who will put up with your shit. You love having power over them. But that's not love. Not real love. And that's why I'm done." I blinked, my throat tight. "Jake, please, don't do this." But he didn't look moved. He didn't look hurt. He looked done. It was as if the person sitting in front of me wasn't someone I knew at all. He stood up slowly, taking one last look at me before turning to walk away. "I'm not coming back," he said, his voice as calm as it had been the entire time. "You've made your choices. Now you get to live with them." I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but the words didn't come. I sat there watching him walk out of my life, my heart heavy with the weight of his absence, but also with the reality of everything I had lost. And in that moment, I knew it was over. He was gone, for good. Jake's footsteps faded as he walked out of the cafe, and for a long moment, I didn't move. I couldn't. My body was frozen, my mind spinning with the emptiness of what had just happened. I sat there in the silence, surrounded by the hum of distant conversations and clinking coffee cups. It all felt so distant, like I was no longer a part of it. The weight of his words pressed down on me, harder than anything I'd ever felt. "You love control, not me." I closed my eyes, but the flood of thoughts wouldn't stop. I thought about everything I'd done, the lies, the manipulation, the way I had used people to keep things the way I wanted them. And now I was sitting here, alone, with nothing left. I had destroyed it all. I thought about my friends, the ones who had distanced themselves, the ones who had turned their backs on me. Monica, my family, people I had cared about, people who had once stood by me, now gone. I had used them too. I had lied to them, used them as pawns in my little game, and now they weren't here to clean up the mess I'd made. I could already feel the judgment seeping in. I had been the one to push everyone away, and now I had nothing but the shards of what was left. I thought about my marriage, how I had taken Jake for granted. He had loved me, I knew that, but I couldn't see it until it was too late. And now, even if I wanted to fix it, there was nothing to fix. He was gone. I had pushed him to the edge. I had made him walk away. I had pushed everyone away, and now there was no one left. My throat tightened as I sat there, looking at the empty chair across from me, where Jake had sat not too long ago. "You're not sorry for me," he had said. And he was right. I wasn't sorry for him, not the way I should have been. I had been sorry for myself, sorry because I was losing the control I had always clung to. I thought I could manage everything. I thought I could make things work by bending people to my will. But I was wrong, and now, for the first time, I could see it. The full consequences of my actions, crashing down all at once. The loneliness felt like it was closing in around me, a suffocating weight I couldn't shake. No one was coming to save me. No one was going to fix what I had broken. It was just me, and there was nothing left to control.